I still remember that afternoon clearly. The sunlight was soft, not harsh. Everything felt ordinary. My father had just returned from his daily walk, the same familiar route, the same slow and steady pace he had kept for years. At his age, walking every day was his way of reminding himself to take care of his health. He sat down on the chair, took a light breath, then looked at me and smiled. He said just one simple sentence. "I feel a little tired today." At the time I did not think much of it. A man in his 70s feeling a bit tired after a walk seemed completely normal. I never imagined it was a warning. Just a few minutes later my father collapsed. There was no cry for help, no obvious sign. Everything happened so fast that I could not even process what was going on. Moments before, he had been sitting right in front of me. And in an instant he was gone forever. A stroke took my father away on what seemed like a peaceful afternoon. Later, when the house became frighteningly quiet, when the shock slowly turned into pain, I began to replay every detail of that afternoon in my mind. I kept wondering whether my father had been trying to tell us something, whether there were signs we failed to notice. Because I later learned that a stroke rarely comes in complete silence. Sometimes the face droops slightly, so subtle that it is easy to miss. Sometimes an arm suddenly feels weak, unable to grip the way it usually does. Sometimes speech becomes slower, harder to understand, as if the words cannot keep up with the thoughts. And sometimes, it is nothing more than a vague feeling of tiredness. My father did not complain. He did not think he needed help. Like many people over 50, he believed that resting would be enough. But the truth is, when it comes to stroke, time matters more than anything. Just a few minutes of delay can change an entire life, or end it. If only we had known that even a small symptom could be a serious warning. If only we had not brushed off that tiredness as something normal. I am sharing this story not to frighten anyone, but to hope that if you are listening right now, you will pay closer attention to your body. If you or someone you love suddenly feels weak, has trouble speaking, or experiences anything unusual, please do not wait. Because sometimes, the moments that seem the most ordinary are the ones that change everything. And sometimes a person's last words are just a simple, everyday sentence, until it becomes something you can never forget. My name is Emily. I did not grow up in what people would call a complete family. I was born from a relationship that should never have existed. My father already had a family before he had me, and that became a quiet fracture that followed me throughout my childhood. When I was in 6th grade, the truth could no longer be hidden. My father's wife found out about everything. I was too young to fully understand what was happening, but I could feel the heavy atmosphere filling the house. Conversations cut short. Avoiding glances. Long, silent meals that seemed to stretch on forever. There were months so tense that I thought I might be pushed out of my father's life forever. But somehow she accepted me. Not with full affection, but with permission. I was allowed to move between the two families, allowed to call him Dad, allowed to exist without having to hide. My father was a quiet man. He was not good at expressing emotions, but I knew he always felt guilty. Maybe that was why he tried to make it up to me through stability, through things that were practical and tangible. After many years of working, my father and his wife saved enough money to buy 2 places. One house for the 2 of them to live in during old age, and a small apartment closer to her side of the family. Everything was arranged neatly, as if everyone had already been assigned their place in this life. When I grew up and went to college, my father let me live in that apartment. For the first time in my life, I felt like I truly had a place of my own. Place to return to. A place that was not hidden or temporary. One evening my father called me over to talk privately. He spoke very softly, as if he was afraid someone might hear. He told me that one day, this apartment would be left to me. As for the house they were living in, he had planned to leave it to his 2 sons. I did not ask anything more. I just nodded. To me it was not about property. It was about acknowledgement. I believed that, at last, I had a clear place in my father's life. Then my father passed away. Suddenly, without any final words, without a single document confirming what he had told me. Everything happened so fast that I had no time to prepare for anything, not even the grief. After the funeral, I continued to visit regularly to light incense for him. It was the only way I felt still connected to my father. But life does not stop for sorrow. When I finished school and prepared to start working, I thought about my biological mother. She had lived alone for too long. I wanted to bring her to live with me, at least so we could rely on each other. I did not expect that moment to be when the harshest truth was spoken. My father's wife said that if I brought my mother to live with me, I would have to move out. She said the apartment did not belong to me. It was her premarital property, transferred to her name by her parents long ago. I was only allowed to stay there, not to make any decisions. I stood there frozen. Everything my father had once said to me suddenly felt fragile, like a promise that had never existed on paper. For the first time in my life, I understood what it felt like to have nothing at all. No home, no security, no real place to stand. I was still young, but the stress hit my body faster than my mind. Began to lose sleep. Could not eat well. My stomach ached constantly whenever I thought about the uncertain future ahead. Later, the doctor told me that stomach pain does not always come from food. It comes from prolonged stress, from insecurity, from suppressing emotions for too long. Beyond the pain of losing my father, I carried many other burdens. Unresolved family conflict. Worry about where I would live. The pressure of stepping into adulthood before I was truly stable. The feeling of being rejected by my own family. All of it added up, quietly wearing me down day by day. There were nights when I lay awake for hours, my hand on my stomach, wondering whether the pain was coming from my body or from my heart. I did not know whether I should stay or leave. I did not know how strong I needed to be to get through this chapter of my life. All I knew was that after my father's death, my life had taken a turn I was never prepared to face. And perhaps, that was only the beginning of what was still waiting for me ahead. There are nights when everything is quiet, and I sit alone in my small room, thinking about my father. I think about the life he lived, about the years he spent putting work and responsibility ahead of himself. My father was not a careless man. He belonged to a generation that believed if you worked hard enough and endured enough, everything would eventually be fine. Now, looking back, I realize how rarely he truly listened to his body. He walked every day, but his eating habits were simple and rushed. He often skipped breakfast, ate quickly just to make it to work on time, and rarely thought that these small habits could add up over the years. I wish my father had known that health is not only about staying active, but also about nourishing the body from the inside. I wish he had understood that after 50, the heart and the brain need steady, gentle care, not just old routines repeated year after year. If I could go back, I would tell him that slow meals and simple but healthy foods can be just as important as exercise. That getting enough nutrients, keeping blood pressure stable, and paying attention to cholesterol are not luxuries. They are how we extend the years we get to spend with the people we love. But time did not give me that chance. My father left, taking with him all the questions that will never be answered, and leaving behind a space that nothing can truly fill. I carry that regret with me every day, as a quiet reminder that health is the one thing we cannot borrow or postpone. I have also come to understand that emotional pain does not stay only in the mind. It moves into the body, slowly but persistently. Long-lasting stress, sleepless nights, irregular meals, all of it leaves a mark. My stomach began to hurt, not because I was eating the wrong things, but because I had been living in worry for too long. Perhaps that is how the body speaks when the soul can no longer carry the weight. I am standing at the beginning of a new chapter. I am about to start working, about to decide where I will live, about to learn how to stand on my own without my father's presence behind me. I still do not know where everything will lead. I am still uncertain, and at times I am still afraid. But there is one thing I know for sure. I do not want to repeat what my father went through. I do not want to wait until my body collapses before I start caring about my health. I am learning to eat more slowly, to sleep earlier, and to listen to even the smallest signals from my body. Not because I am already strong, but because I do not want to lose anyone else, including myself. My story is not the only story of loss. Perhaps everyone listening right now carries an untold story, a private worry, or a quiet exhaustion. And maybe, like my father, you have thought that you could still endure it. If you have stayed with me until these final moments, I want to ask just one thing. Have you truly listened to your body today? Have you been ignoring small signs because you thought they did not matter? I do not know how my story will end. I only know that from this moment on, I choose to slow down and care more deeply about my health, so that one day no one else will have to say I wish I had known the way I do now. Perhaps the answer lies with each person who is listening.